Have you ever paused to wonder why some men seem instinctively drawn to certain women, as if something invisible is pulling them closer, while others go completely unnoticed? The reason isn't just about appearance. There's something far more potent at play, something deeper and more enigmatic. It's a force that renowned psychologist Carl Jung uncovered in his exploration of the male unconscious mind. And today, I'm going to reveal to you what most women have never even heard before. 6 psychological keys that awaken intense, almost uncontrollable desire within a man. This isn't a list of superficial tactics or temporary seduction tricks. This is the real substance, raw, emotional, buried in the most private parts of a man's mind. This knowledge has long remained in the shadows. For years it was thought too potent, too sensitive to be exposed to just anyone. But imagine for a moment what it would feel like to stir such magnetic attraction in the man you quietly crave. Not with fake charm, not with perfect words, not with rehearsed moves, but through the magic that emerges when you reach into the hidden places within him, places he might not even fully understand. Take my client Mariana. At 47, she had been divorced for 5 years. She confided in me that she'd accepted passion and connection were behind her, that she'd become invisible to men as though her time had expired. But everything changed when she applied just 2 of the 6 insights I'm about to share. Not only did she capture the attention of a man who had previously overlooked her, but she also awakened something powerful in him, a fire, a devotion, a sense of loyalty she never imagined she could feel again. What I'm about to tell you goes far beyond perfume, rehearsed phrases, or lace lingerie. This isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about becoming a woman who resonates with something deeply embedded within him, something he can't articulate, but also can't walk away from. Because men are not only attracted by what they see, but by what they experience emotionally when they're around a certain kind of woman. Their desire isn't random, it's symbolic. It ties into ancient components of the psyche that Jung dedicated his life to decoding. These secrets weren't found in typical psychology books, they were buried in Jung's private journals, only recently translated and studied by a handful of researchers with a deep fascination for human emotion and desire. What we discovered there shattered so many assumptions about what pulls a man to a woman, not just in fleeting moments, but in ways that rewire his entire system. I need to be honest with you. This isn't light information. This isn't something to wield carelessly. When you learn how to unlock these hidden emotional triggers inside a man, you hold something rare. You possess influence over the parts of him that govern how he bonds, how he desires, how he stays. And when you use this knowledge with integrity and presence, it doesn't just shift how he behaves, it transforms the way he perceives you, the way he feels when you're near, the way he listens to your voice and touches your skin. It can even transform how he loves. So ask yourself truthfully, are you ready to go deeper than surface level conversations? Are you prepared to stop settling for lukewarm affection and one-sided relationships? Are you ready to step into a space where you speak directly to a man's soul? Are you prepared to become unforgettable? Not because you tried harder, but because you understood something others never did. If the answer is yes, then stay with me. The next few moments may reshape the way men interact with you for the rest of your life. What Jung uncovered in his private research wasn't accepted easily. Many of his peers criticize him, afraid of what might happen if this understanding fell into the wrong hands. But Jung believed that the right person, one with emotional depth and true care, could change lives with it. The first key to unlocking a man's profound desire connects to something Jung called the shadow. The shadow is the side of a person they conceal. The feelings they bury, the thoughts they suppress, the traits they've been taught to hide. And here's the truth that most women never learn. When you become the one who makes space for his shadow without judgment or fear, you don't just earn his admiration, you activate something intense inside him, something that feels sacred. Have you ever seen a man soften Not because you touched him, but because he felt completely seen by you in a way no one else had allowed. That's no accident. That's the power of this first key. From a young age, boys are told to be strong, to toughen up, not to cry or fall apart. They carry this weight silently, always feeling the need to hold everything together. But when you become the woman who gives him permission to exhale, who lets him lower his guard without losing respect, you don't weaken him, you liberate him. And in that emotional freedom, something fierce awakens. He doesn't just want to be with you, he wants to honor you, protect you, give you everything, not because he's expected to, but because he chooses to. And how you awaken this part of him isn't through dramatic gestures or therapy-like conversations. It's through being fully present, looking into his eyes when he speaks, sensing what he isn't saying, holding space without needing to fix everything. That quiet strength you offer, it speaks louder than words, and he feels it in his bones. The second insight Jung revealed is what he called the dance with the anima. Every man carries within him a deeply personal image of the feminine. It's not only physical, it's emotional, symbolic, and spiritual. This inner image evolves over time, shaped by experiences, longings, and personal growth. But here's the secret. When a woman aligns with and reflects that inner image naturally, not through manipulation, but through authenticity, it creates a gravitational pull. You're not trying to mimic something, you're simply becoming more of who you truly are. And when your essence harmonizes with his inner feminine ideal, it's like you're speaking a language only his soul comprehends. And he feels it, not just mentally, but physically, viscerally. So how do you find this alignment? Pay attention. Notice which aspects of your femininity light him up. Does he lean in when you're nurturing, serene, and gentle? Does he become more animated when you're playful, untamed, and free? Or perhaps he responds most when you show your confidence, independence, and self-trust. These aren't acts. They're layers of who you are. And when you sense which ones awaken him and let them emerge freely, something primal in him responds. One of my clients, Christina, was 53 when she met a man who had always seen her as kind but nothing more. She kept trying to win him over through logic, support, and practicality, but none of it touched him deeply. Then, she stopped trying. She let her intuition lead, embraced more mystery, became more emotionally expressive. She didn't chase. She didn't convince. She simply allowed herself to shift, to show up differently. Suddenly, he couldn't take his eyes off her. Something new rose through her energy, a kind of richness, a magnetic complexity. And what unfolded next completely transformed the way he responded to her. The man, who once looked at her with distant politeness, began to see her anew, with wonder, with passion. That's the magic of contrast, not confusion, but dimension. The emotional richness that draws him in again and again, not because you shocked him, but because you surprised his soul. Jung's third hidden insight, found in his most personal notes, is what he described as the alchemy of contrast. This may be one of the most misunderstood forces in human desire, because it challenges everything we're taught about consistency. We're told to be stable, to be one thing or the other, but that's not what enlivens a man's inner world. The male unconscious isn't ignited by sameness, it's stirred by contrast, by opposites, by the unpredictable dance of qualities inside one woman. Men aren't captivated by a woman who is only strong or only soft. What activates something wild and reverent in him is a woman who holds both. A woman who can be deeply nurturing and fiercely independent, calm and wild, thoughtful and uninhibited. When you allow multiple parts of yourself to show, when you no longer fit a single mold, you become a living paradox, and the male psyche finds that utterly magnetic. This is why so many relationships lose their spark over time. The woman becomes one-dimensional, predictable, and the contrast, the sense of discovery, fades. Jung believed male desire stays alive when a man feels like he's continually discovering new aspects of you. That's what contrast offers. It keeps him engaged, alert, alive, and it doesn't just stir attraction, it deepens connection. You don't need to transform yourself, you simply stop hiding pieces of you to fit a role. You allow more of your truth to surface. You don't bury your sensuality to seem respectable, and you don't mute your intelligence to appear sweet. You hold all of it. That complexity, that's what stirs a man's unconscious desire, not flawlessness, but depth. One client I worked with, Elenina, was 42 and had been married for 15 years. Her marriage had become polite and predictable. She told me it felt like she and her husband were roommates, safe but disconnected. She realized she had become the responsible wife, practical and stable, but she had silenced the other parts of herself. So she began to awaken them. She started expressing her sensuality again, letting her spiritual side show, embracing her inner fire and mystery. And something in her husband changed. He began watching her again, listening, reaching for her like he did years before. Not because she forced anything, but because she reawakened the woman he fell for, and even more, the woman he never knew he needed. He was falling in love all over again, not with someone new, but with the version of her he had forgotten. Those first 3 secrets already opened the door to something rare and transformative. But now we step deeper into Jung's work, the part few ever explore. These are the boldest, most intimate and transformative truths he uncovered about how men love and why certain women remain unforgettable. These next insights reveal why some men carry the imprint of a woman for decades, why he dreams of her, misses her, and silently compares every other woman to her, even if they haven't spoken in years. It's not just about attraction. It's about what she stirred within him, what she awakened that he didn't even fully understand. Jung's 4th insight may be the most potent, the resonance with a man's inner hero. Every man, no matter how modest or reserved he seems, carries a deep longing to be heroic. Not in the way movies portray it, not in loud, exaggerated displays, but in a quiet, soul-deep way. It's the need to be purposeful, to protect, to create meaning, to make a difference. It's not about ego. It's a sacred inner call to rise. And when a woman sees this in him, honors it, and gives space for it to emerge, she does more than make him feel appreciated. She awakens something profound, a part of him he may not even have known was dormant. She doesn't flatter, she reflects back his true essence, his strength, loyalty, integrity, purpose, and dedication. This doesn't mean you should pretend to be weak so he can feel strong. That's not empowerment, it's performance. What activates his hero's soul is being truly seen. When you mirror back the quiet courage he shows every day, when you acknowledge the depth of his loyalty, his resilience, his protective spirit, that reflection touches him like few things ever will. When a man feels seen like this, he doesn't just like you, he treasures you, because he sees himself in a new light through your eyes. He's inspired to rise, not out of obligation, but out of love. Tiana, one of my clients, was 58 when she began to apply this with her longtime partner. For years, she had focused on what he wasn't doing, thinking critique would inspire change, but instead he retreated emotionally. So she shifted. She started truly seeing and naming his positive traits, his quiet dedication, his devotion to his children, his consistent effort to grow, even when no one acknowledged it. She didn't exaggerate, she didn't perform, she simply appreciated what was already there. And what happened was remarkable. He began to light up for her, for himself. He started engaging more, listening deeper, holding her differently, like she was his lighthouse. And that's what this trigger does. It brings a man back to life, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And he links that awakening to the woman who helped him feel it. Jung believed this key was sacred and powerful, something not to be taken lightly, because once a man feels that kind of recognition, his loyalty isn't just emotional, it becomes soul deep. It's no longer just about attraction. It's about being claimed in the deepest, most human way. Then comes the fifth truth, a revelation that reframes everything we've been told about male desire. Jung called it the gateway to the transcendent. Most people assume men want sex purely for the physical release, that it's about visual appeal, fantasy, or momentary pleasure. But Jung's findings revealed something far more profound. At the root of male sexuality lies a longing for transcendence, for something bigger than himself, for the dissolving of boundaries, for a merging so complete that it silences the world. And when a man meets a woman who channels that energy, not just through her body, but through her full, present, embodied presence, he doesn't merely want her, he surrenders. This has nothing to do with pretending to be divine. It's not about floating around acting like a goddess. It's about coming home to your body as something sacred, about allowing your sensual energy to move through you without performance, without trying to be anything but present. It's the difference between acting sexy and truly being immersed in your own experience, breathing, feeling, surrendering. When you do this, not for him, but for yourself, you become a portal, a mirror to something ancient and eternal. And when he steps into that energy with you, something cracks open inside him. It's not just lust, it's reverence, devotion, humility. One question that often arises when I share this is, isn't this manipulation? And the answer is no, absolutely not. Manipulation relies on deception, on controlling someone's behavior for your gain. What Jung revealed are not tactics, they are psychological truths, reflections of how we're wired as human beings, how we connect when we are honest, whole, and awake. This isn't about trapping a man with sex or praise. It's about seeing the truth of who he is and allowing yourself to be seen too. When you reflect his inner hero, you're not pretending. You're allowing yourself to witness and value what's already there. That's not manipulation, that's intimacy. When you become a portal to the transcendent, you're not seducing, you're revealing. You're reclaiming your own sensual power as something sacred, not for approval, but for alignment. That energy, when felt deeply and authentically, is what men never forget, because it's so rare, so real. But as with any deep truth, this is not a quick fix, it's a journey, a practice. It begins with self-awareness, looking honestly at how you've shown up in your connections. What parts of your feminine essence have you freely expressed? What parts have you silenced or hidden out of fear, shame, or conditioning? Then comes acceptance, real acceptance, not trying to fix or mask who you are, but holding all of it. Your longing and your logic, your stillness and your fire, your boldness and your vulnerability. These aren't contradictions, they're your depth. When you stop fragmenting yourself, when you stop apologizing for who you are, everything shifts. Your energy changes, you begin to attract instead of chase. And from that space of inner union, something beautiful begins to happen. After awareness and acceptance comes embodiment, practice. Let these truths show up in everyday moments. Not as a strategy, but as a new way of living. Allow your full self to be present in how you speak, how you move, how you listen. Notice the subtle changes, how men respond, what shifts in your presence. One of my clients, Patricia, age 38, started a private journal. In it, she tracked how different sides of herself, her softness, her directness, her mystery, impacted her conversations and interactions. This simple awareness helped her see what she had been unconsciously repeating. She wasn't reinventing herself, she was remembering herself, and that changed everything. Here's what so many women don't realize. Your power to awaken a man's desire is only the beginning. The deeper magic lies in your power to open his heart, to reach places in him even he doesn't often visit. Not through pressure, not through manipulation, but through your wholeness. When you begin integrating Jung's 6 sacred insights, you're not just becoming more desirable, you're becoming more alive, more grounded, more fully expressed, and this ripples into every area of your life. Women who embody this wisdom often see change everywhere, in their relationships, yes, but also in their creative energy, their work, their parenting, their friendships, as if life itself begins to respond differently. And that's what happens when we return to our natural state. Not fragmented, not performing, but fully connected. Jung wasn't just talking about relationships, he was mapping a way back to the feminine soul, a path for women to reclaim the intuitive, sensual, emotional brilliance that had been shamed or buried. When you walk that path, you don't just change how men see you, you transform how you see yourself. But with that power comes responsibility. These truths aren't toys, they aren't games, they awaken deep places in others. When you begin practicing this way of being, you will stir things in the men around you. Sometimes desire, sometimes fear, sometimes long buried pain. And that is not something to take lightly.